In the previous part of this lecture, we deal with mainly linear sequence, that is, sequence with members that are simple item. For this video, we work on tree, which is a sequence of sequences. So it is slightly more involved, but if you can think of it recursively, you can manage this very well. Tree is a sequence of sequences. A sequence which includes itself is still a sequence. This is so-called the closure property. This allows us to build hierarchical structures of tree. For example, you have this sequence. The length of the sequence is 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 items. The first item is yet another sequence. It contains 1 and 2. And the second item is yet another sequence 2, and it has 3 and 4. And the third item has the singleton 5. So this is a tree with 3 children, and this child itself is another tree. So if you draw it out, you get this picture. The first layer has 3 children. This is the root of the tree. And the first child is yet another tree which contains 2 items, 1, 2. And the second child is another tree, and it contains a 3 and a 4. The last child is simply a 5. Now, this is called the root, and this is internal node, which is itself is the root of a subtree, and all these ending items, which are numbers here, but they need not be the case in general. They can be other data type as long as they are not the recursive structures of a tree. For simplicity in our illustration, we often use simple numbers, and this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they are so-called the leaves of the tree. They are the ending branches of the tree, so they are called the leaves of the tree. So this tree has 5 leaves, to recap, and you see this is a recursive structure of a tree with a child which itself is a tree all the way until the end, which are the leaves. With this basic understanding of a tree, we can now do some interesting computation with a tree. Our first example on tree is counting the number of leaves in a tree. So for a given tree, which is a sequence of sequences, we want to know how many leaves are there in the tree. For our previous example, this is a tree with 5 leaves. So how can we get this number 5? Tree as a recursive structure, it is very natural that we write a recursive algorithm for it. The recursion looks like if as long as a tree still has subtrees, then we would have to recurse into it until we see leaves. And then each time we encounter a leaf, we plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1 to get 5 in this case. Define count underscore leaves given a tree. If the tree is empty, of course you return 0. Otherwise, if the input type is not a tuple, which means that, as we say, it's no longer a sequence, then this must be a leaf, and then you return a 1. Otherwise, you return counting of the leaf for the first child plus counting of the leaves for the rest of the children. This is the same as before when we were dealing with linear structures. You deal with the first guy, and then you deal with the rest of the guys. You can enter this code in Python Tutor and try it out with this tree to see how the execution proceeds. As you should know by now, a recursion algorithm is supported by the system with a stack. We will use all these colors to encode our stack to help in our visualization. So work to be done in stack and the partial answer that we obtain throughout the computation. So when the program enter with a tree, which is the root of the tree, you have these 3 boxes to be processed. First, we deal with the red one. Dealing with the red one will get us these 2 green colors. So the 2 green colors are put on top of the stack, and the red one is gone. And then proceed with the stack again to deal with the light green. The light green reaches the leaf containing 1, which is not a tuple, so you return a 1. You have a 1, and the light green is gone. And then now you deal with the green, and the green is again a number, which is not a tuple. You get a 1, and this 1 is added, so you get a 2 as the answer so far. This green is gone. Now you're left with the orange and the yellow. In dealing with the orange, you get the blue and the purple. You put the blue and the purple on top of the stack. The light blue now is on top of the stack. We deal with it. You get the light blue, you get a 3, which is not a tuple. You return a 1, and this 1 is added to the 2 to get you the 3. Next, you deal with the purple. From purple, it reaches 4, which is not a tuple. You get 1. and this 1 is added to the 3 to get 4. You're left with the yellow. Yellow is pointing to a 5, and 5 is also a leaf. So 1 is added to our partial answer 4 to get 5 as the final answer. This was how the execution has gone through. Each row that we show here in the stack, it's work to be processed. And when we get new work to be processed, we put on top of the stack. And we always go from the left to the right and top to the bottom. And this is a sequence of processing that you can understand, or you can refer to Python tutor as mentioned earlier to see how this is executed to get the answer 5. This 5 happened to coincide with this 5, but this 5 is the number of leaves. This 5 is the content in the leaf. When you run this in either, our tree is 1, 2, a subtree, 3, 4, another subtree, and a leaf 5. It looks like this. And if you count leaf 3, you will get 5. If you count leaf 3 plus 3, what is 3 plus 3? So this is a 3 concatenated with a 3. So this combined tree has 6 children. You get 10 leaves. Now if you change your tree to be 1, 2, 3, 4 and include the tree itself in here. So what is this tree? So this tree looks like this. The 5 here has been replaced by the tree itself. So you get this picture. So in this picture, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 leaves. So when you count leaves, the new tree, the tree that you just created, you get 9. Now, if you count leaves of 3 plus 3, this tree has 9 plus a 9, you get 18. This count leaves is a little bit more involved because of its hierarchical structure. If there is only a single level in a normal sequence, things could be easier. Let's see a useful routine to flatten the tree to a single level. Example 5, tree underscore flatten. To do this, we borrow the idea from count leaves. As you saw, the work to be done in stack initially is this. When you process this red, you get this. Process the green, you get 1. So at the moment that you get 1, that is the time that you have found the leaf. Instead of counting, you should record it as a sequence with single item. The next moment that you process the green one, you get the 2, and this is the time that you append the 2 to the 1 to get 1, 2, and so on. In summary, when you look at this code, so when the tree is empty, instead of returning a 0, you return an empty tuple also. When the tree is a leaf, you just create this tuple with a single item, and you change the name of count leaves to tree flattens. So all in all, you get these codes. Define tree flatten. If tree is empty, you return empty. Else if the tree is a leaf, you create a single item for this leaf. Otherwise, you recursively flatten one child, concatenating with tree flatten the rest of the children. We can use tree underscore flatten to redo the counting of leaves in a tree. For our familiar tree, 1, 2 as a subtree, 3, 4 as another subtree, 5 as a singleton. When you do tree flatten tree, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The length of this is 5. If you do tree flatten 3 plus 3, this tree is this concatenated with another tree of this. So in total, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the length of this is 10. If you have a tree, 1, 2, subtree, 3, 4, subtree, 3 as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then if you flatten this, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this tree has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the back. So the length of this is 9. So for this tree concatenated with itself, when you flatten it, so you have 2 copies of this, 1 copy here, and another copy here. So in total, the length of this is 18. Let's see another use of tree flatten. We want to find out the sum of squares of those leaves with odd numbers. So this is a tree with numbers. We only want those leaves that are odd. We want to square them and to sum them up. Remember our signal processing view? We can easily solve this with that. The tree flatten is here. We can first take the tree and flatten it. Then we check with filter that it is an odd number. Then we keep it. For each of the odd number, we square it. And then the square of all these odd numbers are then accumulated to a final answer. If we try with our usual tree, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the sum odd square of the tree, you call this function, you will get 35. Why? 1 is odd, 2 is not, 3 is odd, 4 is not, 5 is odd. So we take square of 1 plus square of 3 plus square of 5 to get 35. Now if you try another example to have a new tree, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the tree is here. When you check, the tree looks like this. You only want the sum of squares of all the odd numbers. In this case, 1 square plus 3 square plus 1 square plus 3 square plus 5 square, you get 45. Let's see another example working with 3. We want to write a routine 3_scale to scale each leaf of a tree by a factor. Suppose this is the tree. If you do 3_scale 3, 2, this tree is this tree. By a factor of 2, you should get a tree like this. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 3 is 6, 4 is 8, 5 is 10. Here's our first attempt. So you define 3_scale 3 by a factor. If the tree is empty, you return empty. Otherwise, if the tree is a leaf, you return the 3 times a factor. If both cases are not true, then you return recursively the 3 scale, working on the first child, concatenates it with the result by working on the rest of the children. So if you try 3 equal to this, 3 scale 3, 2, you will get an error. What is this error? This error is because in this base case you return the tuple, in this base case you return an integer. So at some point you are attempting to concatenate a tuple with an integer. This is not allowed. We have to fix the wrong return of an integer here. Here is our second attempt. It is the same code as before, except that now when the tree enter is a leaf, instead of an integer return, we put that integer as a single element of a tuple to be returned. Now let's try it with the same tree. If you do 3 scale 3, 2, you get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, which means that this tree, when you apply the routine, you get this. But this tree has 5 children and this original tree has only 3 children. They are different in structure, so this is not quite what we wanted yet. Notice that this is exactly the same structure as that in a tree flatten. Here is the next and correct attempt. The routine should look like this. Define 3 scale 3 for a particular factor, and you actually return map the scale function which is defined here and the tree. As you recall, a map is to take the sequence, in this case the children of the tree, one by one, and apply the scale function on it. This is exactly what we wanted to preserve the structure of a tree. So this function defines scale function subtree, as this initially is the tree. If the type of the subtree is not a tuple, which means it is a leaf, you return the factor times the subtree, meaning that you return the scaling of that leaf by the factor. Otherwise, you return 3 scale recursive call to the original function on this subtree to go to the next level. So the structure is preserved by the function map itself to do one child after another to preserve the hierarchy of a tree. Let's visualize how this routine works on our example. So work to be done in the stack because of the recursion and partial answer that we have along the way. Upon entering this routine, the tree is with these 3 children. We stack up the work to be done. So this 3, the red, the orange, and the yellow, one on top of the other, and we mark here as level 1 of the map. Subsequent call from 3 scale to enter into the map will get the increasing level. So at level 1, we have the solution to be included in here because of the map. The map will work on each of these one by one and puts its answer inside the tuple. Note that in our previous visualizations, we put these 3 tasks horizontally, but for here, to be explicit of the tasks on the stack, the top of the stack is here and the bottom of the stack is here, we put them vertically. Now the map is going to work on the red one, the top of the stack. Upon working on the red one, it finds these 2 which are not the leaf. Therefore, it has to call 3 scale on this particular subtree. So the light green and the green will be put on top of the stack in place of the red. The light green and the green are at level 2. Subsequently, their answer under the map will be put inside the second level parenthesis, which is this red parenthesis. Now, the light green is on top of the stack. The second level map is going to work on this. This leads to 1. 1 times a factor of 2 will give you 2 as an answer to be included in the red parenthesis. Next, the green is being processed. The green reaches 2. The 2 times 2 to get you 4. and the 4 is put inside the red parenthesis. Having done this two, this level 2 is done. Now the top of the stack is back to level 1. The level 1, orange, is processed to get the blue and the purple. So the blue and the purple are put on top of the stack at level 2. The answer for this level will then be in this blue parenthesis. So the top of the stack, the blue being processed to get the 3 times 2 to give you 6. So 6 is put inside the blue parenthesis. Then next, the purple is being dealt with, and the purple reaches 4. 4 times 2 to get you 8. 8 is going to put inside the blue parenthesis again, because 8 and 6 are on the same level. Last, we have this yellow, which is at level 1. And the level 1, to reach 5, the 5 times 2 to give you 10. And the 10 is to be put inside the level 1 parenthesis, which is the white color. So you have 10 there. So this illustrates that the map dealing with each child, and then inside here recursively calling the map again at the next level to then be able to preserve the hierarchy of a tree while getting the answer. We can try this code in either. On our usual tree, looks like this. If you do tree scale 3, 2, you get what you wanted. 1, 2 becomes 2, 4. 3, 4 becomes 6, 8. 5 is now 10. Now, if you apply it to another tree, 1, 2, 3, 4, with the tree that was this, so it looks like this now, a little bit more complex, which is this. And the tree scale 3, 2, you will get 1 is now 2, 2 is 4, 3 is 6, 4 is 8, and so on. Now, because tree scale 3, 2 is outputting a new tree, and we never assign it to anyone, so our old tree remains the same. We have just seen an example of using tree scale to output another tree of a certain factor. For example 8, to make a copy of a tree, we can simply reuse the tree scale by setting factor equal to 1 to output a copy of the input tree. Alternatively, you can also copy the same codes from the tree scale and remove the factor 1 from the code to get your version of tree copy here. Here's a note about tree_copy. Does this work? Define tree copy, input tree, return tree. If you try it out, it seems to work. Tree is this, tree copy tree to Z, Z equal to 3, true, Z is 3, true. I'll leave it to you to check it out why we usually don't want this. Now, we have just seen tree_scale can provide the ability to work on each leaf while preserving the hierarchy of a tree. That is, we can actually generalize this to tree map to map or apply a function to each leaf. You see, tree scale and tree map are of the same codes, except that the factor times subtree becomes the function applying on the subtree to get tree map. And then tree scale is only a special case of the tree map, with a function with input x, return x star factor. Let's try out tree map for our example tree 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you say z equal to tree map lambda x colon x, meaning that x is not changed, in effect, you make a copy of this tree to be z. So z, when you check it, it is indeed the same as the tree. When you do s equal to tree map lambda x, x times 2, this is to scale the leaf by 2 on the tree, so this is tree scale. So when you check s, indeed it is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now if we have a tree equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, the tree is this. If you check z equal to tree map lambda x colon x, this is again tree copy tree. When you check z, you get the same as the tree. If you do s equal to tree map lambda x, x times 2, this is again a scaling by a factor of 2 on the tree. S is indeed the 3 times 2 for each node. So 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and so on. Map reminds us of accumulate and filter. Now that we know how to do tree map, we can think about tree accumulate and tree filter. So for tree accumulate, we want to apply a function to each leaf and then accumulate or sum up these values, just like accumulate for the normal sequence. Since accumulate doesn't need to preserve the hierarchy of a tree, we can think of flattening the tree, mapping the function on the tree, and then use this normal accumulation to complete the job. So here it is, define tree_accumulate with a signal processing view. For the given tree, we first flatten it, and then for each of the nodes, we apply the function on it with map, and then we use the normal accumulate to accumulate the answer. This completes the tree accumulate. Next, tree filter. How to do this? I leave this as an exercise because I don't have a good answer myself yet. Up till now, you may have already noticed that we keep using recursion and we hardly talk about iterative solutions. Why? As pointed out earlier, tree is a recursive structure and it is natural to use recursive algorithm to deal with recursive structures. If we insist on using iteration, we need to use our own stack to take care of the computation. Take a look at the example of count leaves. Here is the recursive solution for the count leaves, which is a very short program. Now if you look at the iterative solutions, we have to deal with our own stack. Initially our stack is the tree. Tree is a tuple. We work until the stack is empty. We look at the top of the stack. If the top of the stack is a leaf, we just add 1 to the answer and remove the top of the stack. Otherwise, you look at the items on the top of the stack, and stack is now the rest of the items. For each of the child inside the items, push them onto the stack, and then you repeat this routine. You can try it out to see how it works. For our usual tree, you print tree has this, you will get this. Each line is in the stack at each stage of the processing. This comes from the print statement here, and with this, by examining the stack content at each stage, you can see how this whole routine works. Remember, our tree flatten routines is from our count leaves routine. Now we know how to do count leaves iteratively. We can adapt it to do it for tree flatten. So here is the count leaf codes. Here is the tree flatten code. The main change here is that from the result equal to 0, you change to result equal to the empty tuple. And for the result increment by 1, you now have the result equal to the result plus the top of the stack. The rest remain no change. You can try it out on our usual tree. If you do it, you get the content in the stack and the partial result at each stage. Until the end, you see that the tree is flattened to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another tree, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 with this part. If you flatten it, you get the result to be this. So the same as before, you can study this content on the stack and the partial result to better understand the codes. What about example 7, tree scale, and example 8, tree copy? Can we do iterative versions for them? This is not easy. You need to keep track of matching parentheses and you need to mark beginning and ending of matches. So iterative solutions for this are challenging exercises to us. We now sum up our lecture 8. We've seen little new thing except for the Python version of map, filter, and accumulate. But we have built on what we know so far on sequences, in particular tuple, to work on it recursively and iteratively. Remember lecture 6 on higher order function works on sequence only. In this lecture, we have also attempted higher order function for tree, which is a sequence of sequences. We have learned that recursion is much easier to deal with than iteration for tree. And not to forget that we have illustrated a signal processing view to manage complexity. Data often comes as a sequence, and we often do enumeration, mapping, filtering, accumulating, sorting, and searching. Most of the applications in practice deal with mainly combinations of all these components. In the next lecture, we will see sorting and searching.